Anyway, the only real problem between religion and science is when you try to take the Bible, or really, your choice of any holy book, as literal. Is when you try to take that and translate that into a science textbook, which it's not. It's definitively not a science textbook. I'm sure there's some nice moral lessons intermingled between prescriptions about how to worship God properly, and who to stone and for what, and how to sell your daughter into slavery and things like that, and who all is going to be damned forever if they don't worship the right God. Anyway, back to this point though about calling atheism a religion and calling scientists its priests. That's just a wholly it's just a faulty comparison. It's not a good comparison, because priests interpret God's word, or what is considered to be God's word, from holy books. Scientists, on the other hand, they rely upon evidence. If a scientist puts out shit, they're not going to be taken seriously as a scientist. They're not going to get published. They're not going to get research funding. Their careers are built around actual empirical evidence. They're built around results, around reproducible experimentation that they can come up with concrete results for, get written up in peer-reviewed journals. And science loves to correct itself. Scientists love to be proved wrong. They're not subscribing to a religious dogma, except the only thing that they're really subscribing to is that things work in accordance with natural law, and that being the case, things should be able to be tested for. Anyway, I just find it really ironic that creationists rail on about how there's no evidence for evolution, there's no evidence for the Big Bang, there's no evidence for an old Earth, but at the same time, they wholeheartedly believe in this invisible, supernatural, transcending the natural universe entity called God. But of course, they just believe in the one God, the Judeo-Christian God, usually, or whatever their one particular God is, while they remain atheistic about every other God. So again, you're an atheist too. But there's no evidence for the supernatural. There's no evidence for God. But yet, that's a more viable alternative, just because we don't have all the evidence for the origin of the universe, or for the origin of life. Again, just real quick, look up the Miller-Urey experiments. Again, yeah, there may have been some flaws in there, but the underlying principles are shown to be true. That yes, through certain conditions, inorganic materials can give rise to organic materials. The only thing new that this really shows is that, again, science is self-correcting. That when new evidence comes about to supplant an old theory, it's going to supplant that old theory. Theories are based upon the best evidence available at the time. And if the theory continually shows itself to be true, then it's going to gain more and more validity, as has atomic theory, cell theory, germ theory, theory of gravity, plate tectonics, and of course evolution. All these have been entirely supported and never falsified. That's how science works. It starts with facts, and then it builds theories. And if these theories are continually shown to be true, they essentially become natural law. Creationism, on the other hand, uses the conclusion as the premise in essentially a circular argument. The conclusion is that there is a God and the Bible is true. So you can start off on the premise that there is a God and the Bible is true, and that whatever we see can be attributed to God as represented in the Bible, because God exists and the Bible is true. See the problem there? I'm not so much going to talk about the historical accuracy part, because I know I'm rambling on here. There's a lot to talk about, but basically, no, archaeology and history do not conclusively support the Bible. And just real quick, because again, more people touch on this and more eloquently and succinctly than I. But yes, other historical scientists have been Christians and believers in all sorts of other faith. I mean, look at all the advances that the Arabs gave us. I mean, without the Arabs, we wouldn't have zeros, Arabic numbers, things like that. I mean, brilliant people. I mean, the largest libraries in the world were in Timbuktu. I mean, the Egyptians had phenomenal technologies. But again, these are all people, and especially the Renaissance scientists. These are all people who happened to be Christian, but were fundamentally scientists. So the things that they're most remembered for, and their theories and their findings that have been most embraced and accepted into scientific thought, are the ones that are in fact scientific, the ones that are based on empirical evidence. We don't necessarily find the same level of validity in any of their religious arguments. Again, unless you assume the Bible to be true. So ultimately, I guess how the origin of the life, universe, and everything being attributed to this supernatural being, something that can't be seen or tested for and that transcends all natural law, how is that more of a fairy tale than basing a theory upon a lot of evidence and just kind of filling in the gaps with, well, we have evidence for X and Y, so Z is probably true, rather than, oh, we have the Bible which says X, Y, and Z are all true, therefore they are all true. So if you're going to say evolution is a fairy tale, again, I guess you don't really appreciate irony. So yeah, there's my response. It's probably kind of long, but sorry about that.